This is the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
Okay, guys, let's just rip. And Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall. Chris, thanks for being with me tonight.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall.
Now, he puts the broad in broadband. It's Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Middle of the week, it's Wednesday, the third day of May. I thank you so much for downloading the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Coming up, the Colonel, ahoy, Colonel Kurt Schlichter on deck to talk about our distinguished first family, the Bidens, and the coke-addled first son and his stripper baby mama in court in Arkansas. He'll have some thoughts, as well as Donald Trump going to CNN for a town hall. We're also going to talk with a representative out of Pennsylvania named Tim O'Neill. You know, culturally, this is a story I've been following because it's important and you need to know about it. Yes, it's a Pennsylvania story for now. For now. I think it's the first in the country, though, and we're not hearing a lot about it. House Bill 300. It's probably not going any further than the House, but the fact that it passed in the House is something you need to know and be aware that your state representatives and state senators may try next. That is basically to, I call it criminalize. Now, they say, well, no, this is just about a litigation thing. But the idea that a pastor, a priest, a medical hospital run by a church would be forced into this gender dysphoria stuff, and if not, they're able to be sued per this legislation that just passed with the help of a couple of Republicans, I'm sorry to say. So we're going to get into that discussion coming up with the representative. Also, I have some thoughts on the writers' strike. I want to tell you, if you're not a Harumph Society member, tomorrow morning I am going to be sending out an early Harumph Society members-only message about an event that we'll be doing in Philadelphia soon. I'm going to be mentioning this on the radio tomorrow in Philadelphia. For those of you not in Philadelphia, I'm sorry. I'm going to look to do some more events this year. Maybe in places like Kansas City, but for now, I have an event coming up in Philadelphia that is very, very limited, a pretty small and exclusive event. So tomorrow morning, I'll make reference. Tomorrow morning, the tickets go available, but I'm gonna send out a link on the Harumph Society first thing in the morning before the show even starts to let Harumphers know about it first. All right, so that's one of the things about being a Harumph Society member. You got to subscribe. You got to become a monthly subscriber, at least the $5 a month. These are the things that I want to let you in on before we let the general audience know about. So go to the Harumph Society, go to chrisstigall.com or Substack and look for the Harumph Society and subscribe. Also, I spent, the third hour of Sebastian Gorka's show yesterday with him, all told with commercials and everything. That worked out to be about a 40-minute conversation. If you're curious to hear that conversation, some of you reached out to me and said, "Is that going to be on the podcast?" I decided I don't have room, and I would love to put it in a podcast. Maybe this weekend I'll just tack it in there. But it's his property, so I felt a little weird not giving him the downloads. So if you'd like to watch and or listen to my conversation with Gorka, I put that up on Facebook today, the link, and I'll tweet it out as well, so that you can watch it on Facebook or Twitter and listen to the conversation. For those of you that are curious about that, it was a great conversation. Gorka and I get along very well. I think a lot of him. He just loves the country. So it was an honor to be invited. First, let me tell you, before we get the show started, about John Ruhlman, the guy that wants to save you money on health insurance. Have you watched the video at chrisstigall.com of my conversation with John? Are you like, I don't know, health insurance? I've got some. I think it's pretty good. Well, God willing, you'll never have to use it. But do you know it's good? Do you know that if you get sick or if you're hospitalized for a good stretch of time, are you covered? Really covered? Are you going to get socked with hidden bills? Do you have coverage for income if it's a sustained stay in a hospital? How about your loved ones? I mean, have you investigated this stuff? You know, if you're a younger, healthier person, you're probably paying way too much for probably substandard insurance at that. John knows a network of private insurers who will give you as good, if not better coverage and give it to you for less. And I'm talking about maybe hundreds of dollars less a month. Please shop this. Please take a couple of minutes to call John or log on to usmedicalplan.com. If you buy your own health insurance, even if you buy it through work, you know, maybe that is the best way. Maybe you've got a group plan through work and that is the cheapest route. That comes out of your paycheck every month. But maybe you call John Ruhlman and say, hey, here's the insurance that I have through work. Is this the best bang for the buck given what I'm having taken out of my check every month? And maybe he says yes. In fact, it's likely he says yes if you're on a group plan. But if you're an individual, if you're buying it for yourself or your family, or you run your own business and you're buying it for your employees, I guarantee you John can beat what you're doing and get you better coverage for less money, substantially less, like at least 30 to 60% less, and probably more than that. 2 minutes on the phone is all it's going to take. 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com. No late night shows to lull you to sleep last night, Fast Eddie. Are you managing okay in there?
Somewhat. I was really hoping I wanted to see more of Colbert before this stopped, Somebody
emailed me yesterday, and I hadn't intended to share it, but as I was reading the news about the writers' strike this morning, it just dawned on me. A guy actually asked me to go back and watch Colbert, I guess from Monday night. He said, you probably haven't seen it, but please look at the opening monologue of Colbert. First of all, he was almost as harsh toward Biden as he was toward Trump and DeSantis, but that's not the news to me. He also spent a lot of time mocking Tucker. He spoke about the possible writer's strike, seemed to indicate it would take him off the air. Really? I clearly remember Letterman working through a strike. He did a lot more solo because he could write for himself. Colbert showed a photo of his writers, and there had to be 20 different people in the photo. Did Letterman have that many writers when you were there? That seems crazy to me, but I wanted your input and your expertise. It's from George in Levittown. It's a funny thing, actually, as I was thinking back to that time. The last time they went on strike was something like 15 years ago. And if memory serves, they did all take time off. Hosts do that in solidarity with their writers. Hosts and writers are, I don't know, Fast Eddie. It would be like if you were a member of a union. If there was an executive producers union and you all went on strike, I could still come back to work. But maybe I, as a former executive producer of radio myself, am also still a card-carrying member of the executive producers union myself. So a lot of these hosts are also considered writers. So they have a writing credit. So they're technically members of the Writers Guild, but they're also paid hosts. So it's no longer their primary role. So often what happens is, in solidarity with their writers, they will walk off. Also because that's, supposedly a signal to the working man that I, the wealthy, powerful, influential host, have sympathies for you, the working class grunt that makes my show work, even though their heart's really not in it at all. That's what's happening here. They could technically show up and work, and so could the rest of their crew. Only Writers Guild people are striking, so the rest of the show could function. But hosts are effectively saying, well, I can't show up and collect my millions if my writers aren't working, so I'm striking too, effectively, is what's happening.
Because they're definitely man of the people.
That's right. Now, you say, do they have that many writers? Yes, they do. In fact, during my time at The Late Show, there were 15 writers altogether that were in the building every day on one floor. In fact, I was the writer's intern at The Late Show with David Letterman. That was my task. I was literally assigned to the 15th floor of the building, and I, every day, did nothing but step and fetch for the head writers, all the assistant writers. They're an interesting bunch. Some work collaboratively, some work completely alone. I always thought that I wanted to write. I actually always thought comedy writing was what I wanted to do. I mean, variety show hosting seemed interesting to me always, but I always thought, boy, comedy writing is where the action is. I knew that these had to have been the funniest, most creative people ever. And as it turns out, what I learned is most of them are Ivy League snobs and terribly, insufferably, miserably angry. They're really actually the most unhappy lot of people you're ever going to meet. As is most of Hollywood, and as are most people on the left generally who all vote for Democrats. They're hardwired to wake up and hate everything every day. They're nasty, just bitter, cranky. There were a couple that I must say, in fairness, weren't like that. But you know what those people did? And I'm serious. The most likable people that I met during that experience were ones who worked alone and shut their doors and worked in solitude. And when they emerged, they were friendly, they were kind, they would ask politely for this or that, and then they would close the door and they worked alone. It was the collaborative bunch who bellyached and moaned and complained and had their doors open, and they acted like fraternity house, like the worst kinds of fraternity house guys. They were all men, incidentally. This was for me, now this is the late 90s. All men, every one of them. There was not a single woman on the Late Show staff, at least as far as the writers were concerned. And yeah, them going on strike doesn't mean that or whoever, now Colbert, these other guys, it doesn't mean they couldn't work. It just means they would have to literally carry the whole show themselves. They would have to sit and write the show themselves. And you can't do that. And again, the solidarity thing. But the point is, who's missing them? Who's missing them? I would have noticed, and we did miss and did notice, or at least I did, 15 years ago, the last time they did this, when Conan left and Letterman left, and they were still doing some semblance of an actual variety show at night. And the last time I remember talking about this, those guys, that was the first time they grew a beard. Letterman grew a beard, he didn't shave. Remember, Conan didn't shave, and they came back with these salty sea captain beards. That they grew because the strike went on and on and on. Actually, I have a fondness and a reverence and a warm memory in my heart for a time when people wrote comedy on variety shows, and when they went away, you missed them. That is not this era. I can't tell you the last time I watched something called a variety show. In fact, I just read this week in passing, it wasn't even interesting enough for me to mention to you, that the Late Late Show, you ever even watch that? The only reason I even know about that at all today is because of that thing called carpool karaoke that James Corden did. The Late Late Show's been around for something like 25 years. It was actually started by Letterman's production company. It was brought back not terribly long after Letterman started The Late Show on CBS. It was his production company created it, and they hired a guy called Tom Snyder, who he's dead now, but I mean, at the time he was an old school broadcaster from way back, and Letterman's production company hired him to bring it back. The Late Late Show with Tom Snyder. And then after that, I think it was Craig. Who was the guy that did The Daily Show before Jon Stewart? It was Craig, not Ferguson, because he was later. Kilborn, yes.
Yeah.
Craig Kilborn hosted The Late Late Show for a half a second. And then in came Craig Ferguson. And Craig Ferguson had a really nice run. And Ferguson is hilarious. And Ferguson did really well with it. And he wasn't a partisan. He was actually a sincere, genuine comic and funny. And I don't exactly know where Ferguson went or why, and they burned out on it or whatever. But then in came James Corden. And he got famous for a while doing carpool karaoke and all that. But I just read something yesterday that blew my mind about that show. Somebody was quoted from CBS as saying it cost them something like $60 million to produce annually. $60 million. It took in 40. They were losing $20 million a year on that show with James Corden. So they're just not making it. They literally shut the thing off. Did you notice? Nobody knew. Nobody knew. But this is what I mean. These people, they get paid these obscene amounts of money for something no one consumes. No one's even watching it. They've become like, it's almost like entertainment altars or something. It's like sacrifices, like going to church. They don't make anything tangible or material. They lose money, but there's just some sort of religious worship about them now that we're all supposed to go, oh, the late night shows. Oh, what are we going to do? Fallon has cratered. Fallon was doing very, very well until Trump. And Trump, I would actually say that Trump is the thing that drove the stake through the heart of late night television forever. Trump absolutely broke it. If there was ever a shot at it being decent, it was pre-Trump. Fallon was doing pretty well, actually, as host of The Tonight Show. And if you'll remember, back then, Fallon did nothing partisan. He was never a partisan. Never. He just did silly games and jokes and interviewed celebrities and was kind of aw shucks, and everybody thought he was cute and nice. I remember the women always wanted to go see him. My wife said 1,000 times, I remember, in those first years after he started hosting it, how, oh, that looks like so fun. Let's go to New York. Let's get on the train. Let's go see Fallon. I was, whatever. I mean, he was never my bag, but I appreciate that he was trying to be just sort of mass appeal. And he was doing really well. And then Colbert launches The Late Show. He takes over for Letterman. And Colbert tries for half a second to do what Fallon was doing. And if you go back and watch that first year of Colbert, maybe not even a year, Colbert actually left the Colbert Report over on the Comedy Channel, Comedy Central, and dropped the whole shtick of mocking Bill O'Reilly and Fox News and tried to be like, I'm going to come out and do a variety show monologue. I'm going to talk about the news of the day. I'm going to interview celebrities. And then one day, they just concluded this isn't working. He was getting crushed by Fallon. And they decided, you know what? Let's just go back to what works. Just do your partisan stuff. Just be a full-blown Democrat. And like a switch, Colbert decided that's where he was going to go. And that was about the era of Trump and Trump running for president. Meanwhile, Trump goes on Fallon. Fallon tussles Trump's hair. Do you remember, can I touch your hair? You remember that?
Yep.
This was the turning point for variety show television forever. If you asked me at what point did variety TV on network television turn for the worse to never be salvaged again, it was that moment. When Fallon asked Trump, can I mess up your hair? And Trump said, sure, come on, do that thing. Because Hollywood and the people that put together those shows never forgave Fallon. They piled on that guy. Mainstream media piled on that guy. They beat the hell out of Jimmy Fallon for what? The word was normalizing Trump, humanizing him. Trump came off very well. And as you recall, when he was a candidate, he was going on Saturday Night Live. He hosted Saturday Night Live. Boy, doesn't that seem like an eon ago? They invited Trump as a candidate, a presidential candidate, to host SNL. Can you imagine today Trump being invited to do anything like that?
Definitely not.
No, they won't even let him on the show. NBC now says, after he's been arrested, we're not going to let you hear from the man who was just the former president of the United States and is running again. We're not going to let you hear from him defend himself after he's been arrested because we think it's propaganda. Is now the NBC position. This is how unhinged they are. But just a few years ago, Fallon has him on the couch. He's hosting Saturday Night Live. He's on Joe and Mika's show. You know, he's an entertainment celebrity star kind of guy that thinks interesting. Hollywood flipped. He won. He went on to win that year. And it was once Donald Trump won, they never forgave Fallon. They believe do you realize that there are people in mainstream media that actually believe, and I'm serious, and they've written it, if you go back and look at it, that Jimmy Fallon and Lauren Michaels helped Donald Trump win an election. And for this sin, they have been trying to atone for it ever since. Jimmy Fallon decided to start doing partisan comedy, which he never did before. He doesn't know how to do it. He sucks at it. It's not his natural state. His natural state is I play music and I sing karaoke with my friends and I interview celebrities and I'm ha-ha cute funny guy. Now he's trying to do partisan comedy. Why? Because Colbert decided to tack left and do the same thing. And everybody piled on Fallon for being the guy that ingratiated himself to Republicans. Kimmel, of course, continued to host award shows and tacked further left. And so these shows became left-wing pep rallies quickly. And it really did happen. There was sort of a demarcation point. It wasn't a slow evolution. It was almost like a switch was flipped. And all of them became left-wing pep squads. And so as such, if you turn these things on, you know what you're going to get. Every night you're going to get the same steady diet of left-wing clapter. Not laughter, not jokes. Barbs and digs and shots taken at Trump and Republicans. Now, even people who hate Trump and even people who vote for Democrats, Is that entertaining after a while, if they're to be honest? If you're to be honest, and you're a left-wing Democrat voter and you hate Trump, be honest. Is it entertaining to tune into a show night after night after night where a guy tells, isn't Trump the worst jokes every single night, even when he's not in power anymore? Is that entertaining to you? Like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. To me, it would be like if I tuned in every night and my favorite host was telling, isn't Obama the worst jokes? Obama, right? Not Biden, but Obama. Actually, no, it would be like, isn't Obama the worst jokes during the Trump era? That's probably more analogous. So the 4 years Trump is president and you tune in every night to your favorite host, let's say Gutfeld. You like Gutfeld over on Fox. He's doing very well. Is Gutfeld doing, isn't Biden the worst jokes every night? Now, he may tell a joke or two, but he tells jokes about a lot of things. But this would be like, while Trump's in the White House, your favorite late night show host, while Trump's in the White House, is every night going, remember Obama? Hey, do you know what Obama's up to now? Wouldn't you, after a while, if you're even remotely honest, wouldn't you be watching that going, why is this dude not doing like today jokes? Real jokes that are happening in the news now. Like, I get the last guy was bad, but why is he not talking about now? There's no audience for this. No one's watching them. Their ratings have absolutely cratered. They're losing money. They're hemorrhaging money. So now their writers go on strike. And people like you, who used to watch these shows for comedy and entertainment, naturally ask yourself, writers? They have writers? And then you hear, they have 20 writers? And that's the best they can come up with? And I say, yeah, pretty shocking. I mean, I remember a time, Letterman's always been a partisan guy. Letterman's always been sort of left to center. But even back in the 90s, Letterman wasn't doing, aren't Republicans awful? Jokes. Yeah, George W. Bush is a dumb guy. I guess in the early 2000s or whatever, jokes. But, it was pretty evenly distributed, pretty benign. But it was still throwing watermelons off the roof and, taking the guy in the shop next door and doing irreverent stuff. It was about just being silly and having fun and genuinely entertaining. And I watched the creative process for that, and that was very interesting. And those people were sincerely interested in trying to create things that were not partisan, but silly, irreverent, and I guess hopefully mass appeal. Even though in private they were loathsome, miserable, angry people who were leftists, but they kept that in check. I mean, I knew culturally, I was from the Midwest. I was a kid from the Midwest, and they hated me for that. They did. Some of them openly. A couple of them used to call me the hillbilly. They just had utter they were all Ivy Leaguers, almost all of them. That's something you should know. Most of these comedy writers are all literally, Harvard, Yale, University of Pennsylvania. They're Ivy Leaguers. It's weird. Like, you wouldn't think people that write comedy for the masses are Ivy League educated, but they are. And they're in a very tight club, and they just jump from show to show to show. Like, I worked at the Daily Show, now I'm on the Late Show, I'm going over to the Colbert, They're an insular, tight little network. And most of them angry and miserable, but they used to keep that in check because it, again, had to play it to the masses. But in private, man, do they hate you. And so when I wanted to leave New York and come home, I had the chance to stay. I could have stayed. I was engaged. I was in love. I wanted to come home. But most of all, when people said, Stigall, that's Letterman. That's your dream. You're coming home from New York. And even at the tender age of 21 that I was smart enough to know these are not people I want to be around. I do not want to be enveloped in this culture. These are very, very toxic, miserable, unhappy people. And you wouldn't know that. Most people do not know that. They think comedy is fun. Creating comedy must be fun. Now, I'm not saying I can speak. I do know that there were some people that were working on Conan O'Brien's show simultaneously, and that's a far different culture. I don't think Conan O'Brien is at his core like a nasty. He's a Democrat, but I don't think what moves him and motivates him every day when he gets out of bed is partisan politics. I don't think that ever really got a hold of him. And even if you listen to his podcast today, that's still not what moves and motivates him. He's still interested in the joke. And I heard from people that interned with him that Conan would walk around and play the guitar and be kind of fun and silly and have fun with people around the office. Not this bunch. They were the most miserably unhappy people ever. And I knew then as a kid, I don't want to stay here. I do not want to be swallowed whole in this culture. They're miserable. So, look, for me personally, when I hear this story, I know this is not the biggest news story of the day. But when I hear the Writers Guild is on strike, and this, boy, this is going to shut Hollywood down for a while, I know who these people are. And I don't miss them even a little bit. And neither do you, whether you know them or not. Trust me, if you knew them, you'd really not miss them. And it's just such an antiquated thing anyway. We've been spending so much time talking about Tucker leaving and how media is changing. We talked with John Solomon about this yesterday. I'm not even sure. It's maybe too bold a statement. I'm not even sure the era of the variety show exists anymore. I don't even know that that's a thing anymore. I think they don't know it yet, but I think their time has passed too. I think the era of turning on the TV at 11:30 and seeing a host interview people is dying anyway, if not already dead fast, Eddie. Agree?
I do. I think that's probably Gutfeld would be the last one now.
Yep. But it's like, I don't know what it is. This is not particularly profound. It's just something that I've been ruminating over. Everything feels like all of a sudden we're at a weird media inflection point. John said it yesterday. This feels like 1980 with cable. There's something afoot, and I've been feeling it for a while. We have certainly in our business, in both radio and podcast, it's happening in TV. Everything is shifting. All the old shibboleths, all the old monuments of entertainment, and all the old school way of doing things, they're all crumbling. And what's interesting is the audiences are saying, meh. Like, there's not this surge of, oh no, what are we going to do without the late night shows? And I don't think, it's Fox News viewers that watch Tucker. I don't think people are thinking, oh no, but Fox News, how's Fox News going to fare without Tucker? I don't think anybody gives a rat's rear end about Fox News. I think they care about Tucker, and they wonder where Tucker's going to go, but they don't care about Fox as an institution. And as much as I used to care about variety shows, I don't care about them as institutions anymore either. These entertainment media institutions, maybe that's it. Maybe that's my theme as I talk myself through this. Much like a lot of the institutions of government have lost their way and lost our trust, maybe the institutions of media have come crumbling right along with them. Hey there, it's Chris, back on the phone with my dentist and friend Bob Spinato at Williamsburg Dental in Broomall, Pennsylvania, just off the Blue Route with new technology. You have not just new associates, but they brought new technology into the business to make it a little easier for patients.
Yeah, it's a very exciting time in dentistry. We have now introduced a three-dimensional x-ray called a CBCT scan in our office, which allows us to diagnose and things earlier for patients. My daughter is placing a lot of implants in the past had referred out. It's now being done in-house. And we also, we've been using dental or computer scanners for taking impressions for crowns for about the last 2 to 3 years. We now have introduced the next step, which is a milling machine, and we can now make crowns in the office. Things can be completed in the same day as opposed to having a temporary crown put on and 3 weeks later coming back and having a permanent crown put on. It's really a game changer, and it's a time saver for our patients to not have to make multiple visits to the office.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com. I picked up on this right away when the Husk rolled out with his campaign video last week. Freedom! Freedom! Headline from the Hill, Biden seeks to flip the script on freedom in 2024. President Biden flipping the script on Republicans by casting himself as the protector of freedom. What'd I tell you? Going on offense by using a word and concept conservatives have frequently cited to push back on the president and his party. Biden's campaign launch video was titled Freedom, and he referenced freedom or freedoms 6 times over the course of the clip. The campaign's first official ad used those words 7 times. The president's team has used the term aggressively to tie Republicans, and in particular his political foe Donald Trump, to January 6th. And, of course, abortion and blah, blah, blah. It's pretty clear the strategy here is going to be Republicans are coming after our freedoms and our ability to do X, Y, and Z, said one Democrat strategist. Those are typically talking points Republicans use, so we're playing on their turf and winning. So Democrats and Biden's play is to convince you that they're the guardians and they're the defenders of freedom. Will that work? How free are you feeling out there?
Very.
You know, freedom is disposable income. One of the greatest aspects of being free in this country is having the disposable income to pursue happiness. How's your disposable income doing out there? Unless you're fabulously wealthy or you're, an upper 1% earner. How's your disposable income? Are you feeling free? Are you awash in cash? Are you feeling free to make purchases as you see fit? Are Democrats, when you talk about feeling safe in your cities, freedom, part of being free is to feel safe, to feel protected, that harm won't befall you. Do you think people feel free and safe in their major American cities? So, when you take away disposable income, when you start talking about taking away gas stoves, when you make gasoline so unaffordable that people don't want to fill their car or drive, and they're stuck at home. If Vivek Murthy, the Bond villain, was out yesterday touting this new piece about loneliness. You know what makes people lonely? When they become shut in, when they have no money, when they don't drive, when they don't travel. It's too expensive to fly. It's too expensive to drive. It's too expensive to do anything. Too expensive to go visit relatives. When Democrats lock you in the house over a virus, put you behind a mask. It's pretty audacious that these people would say that they're the party of freedom. What about this party has been the party of freedom exactly? Abortion? How many of us are actually getting those? Seriously, even you women who make this a focal point issue. What about your just your basic daily freedoms? What about your freedom for your kid to go to school without being indoctrinated? How's that going? Your freedom to feel safe. Disposable income. It's amazing. If this works, if it works, again, I'm frustrated because this party couldn't be less interested in allowing you freedoms. This party, this presidency is committed to, at every turn, controlling and central planning your life and mine. Your freedom is the last thing they want. Your freedom to drive the car you want, to use the gas stove you want, to power your home as you see fit, to set your thermostat at the temperature that makes you comfortable. Literally the beef you eat on your plate. These are people that want to control every aspect of your life. And they have the audacity to make freedom their theme. They're the defenders of freedom. I don't know. If again, as I say, if it were you're free to mutilate your child, that's freedom, I guess. It's you're free. We stand with you in solidarity to take your child, your minor child, to a hospital to have their healthy genitals removed and to be chemically castrated. Is that freedom? I guess to some. Look, if freedom means chemical castration for children and aborting children, I'm sorry to keep invoking Tucker, but Tucker said it. That's like human sacrifice stuff. So we're now in some new territory where freedom means human sacrifice. I don't know how else to say it. Are we like pagan gods now? Is that what we're doing? This is pagan stuff. So Joe Biden's freedom! Freedom means mutilating and killing our children. That's the freedom they're defending? Because otherwise, I don't feel particularly free. I mean, what I know is I can mutilate my children. What I know is I can get a woman pregnant and they'll advocate for me to go abort that baby the second she's pregnant. Those are things they're going to die on the Hill defending for me. But if I want more disposable income, if I want to drive an affordable car and fill it with affordable fuel, if I want to go buy affordable food, if I want to buy a home, if I want a gas stove in that house, if I want to live in a community of safety and security, if I want a border that's not overrun, they have no interest in defending any of those. And those things are more fundamental to your freedom and mine than butchering and murdering children. But okay, I mean, if that's freedom, good luck. Listen, if you're somebody who follows the news regularly, particularly if you're somebody who follows President Trump, former President Trump, with interest, recently he issued a warning and said, and I quote, "Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat, frankly, in 200 years. Central banks are dumping the U.S. dollar because of inflation, deficit spending, our insurmountable national debt." I mean, we had another bank, the second largest bank failure in history over the weekend. I mean, the fact remains that there is one asset that has withstood famine and wars and economic upheaval, and it dates all the way back to biblical times, and you know what I'm talking about. It's gold. Now, listen, I'm not an investment advisor, and I don't pretend to be. So I'm not telling you your business, but I am telling you that you can own gold in a tax-sheltered retirement account with the help of Birch Gold. Now, I've been working with Birch Gold as a sponsor of this show because they can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k, maybe from a previous employer, into an IRA in gold. The best part is you don't pay a penny out of pocket. Now, again, I'm not an advisor. I'm not telling you should do it. I am telling you if this sounds interesting and you'd like to investigate it, it's really simple. If you text Chris to 989898, just text Chris to 989898 and you will get a free gold info kit. They will just send you an information kit so you can read up on it. That's all. No commitment, nothing out of pocket. But if you're curious about it and you're like, yeah, I think that sounds interesting, text Chris, text my name, Chris, to 989898. Think about this. When the banks faltered, the stock market faltered, gold surged. So protect your savings with gold. Birch Gold has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers. Again, it's text Chris to 989898. Get your free info gold kit. That's Chris. Text it today to 989898. We have been following the story of House Bill 300, something called the Fairness Act. Anything but. It's basically the Jail You for Speech Act, is what I read it as. Tim O'Neill is a state representative from the 48th district that encompasses parts of Washington County, Pennsylvania, and he joins us to discuss it. It passed the House yesterday. The final vote, 102 to 98. And I was dismayed to learn that it had the help of two Republicans. One Democrat voted against it. Two Republicans voted for it. Tim O'Neill is a Republican who voted against it and joins us now. Representative O'Neill, thanks for your time. Hello.
Oh, hello, Chris. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So you bet you, and thank you for your attention to this and time this morning. This is, you know, we've done a couple of conversations about this. It's obviously odious. It's pernicious. It's alarming that you have legislators that think, as I read this, everybody from churches to doctors can be sued, can be legally attacked if they don't embrace this gender dysphoria garbage that's sweeping the country. That's my sum total of this legislation. Yours?
I don't think you're far off, Chris. Yeah, but it's probably a little bit further than what you just mentioned. It includes kindergartens, schools, colleges and universities, and basically any educational institute under the supervision of the Commonwealth as well. So it is definitely a dangerous piece of legislation as the way it's written, and I would certainly categorize it as an ability to sue under this ideology as you described it as well.
So most alarming to me, I mean, it's all alarming. Anytime anybody is allowed by their legislature to be sued for speech, that's alarming. But specifically, pastors and doctors. I mean, if you start to talk about churches who can't preach the inerrant word of God, that it is biblical, that there are two genders and that's that, and God created them and doesn't make an error, if that's the kind of thing that starts to be something we can take to court, I mean, sanctioned by the legislature, God help us.
Yeah, and our religious liberty and the ability to practice our faith is fundamental to our society. It's fundamental to our Constitution, and it's certainly fundamental to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as well. And this definitely goes right against that. Under this bill, doctors at a Catholic hospital would be required to perform gender-affirming care, regardless of whether or not that is against their religious beliefs. And that is a massive issue under this piece of legislation as it moves forward.
And you just, I mean, if it were to move forward, and I pray, I think people seem to suggest this doesn't stand a chance in the Senate. Is that your understanding, or are you that confident yet?
Look, I'm being a House member. I never want to be in the position where I have to rely on the Senate to do anything. But that is the position we're in. It is my understanding that the Senate does not have an appetite to move this forward. Certainly, as it's written, there's a possibility that it gets amended into some other version that they do agree on. But that is kind of we're going to have to wait and see exactly what they do there. So,
again, a religious institution that says, I don't want any part of, encouraging or fostering chemical castration as surgery on a minor child to change their gender, quote unquote, as if you could. I don't want anything to do with that. This legislation allows people to be sued over that statement.
Correct. And Chris, one of our members did a good job yesterday on the floor highlighting how religious institutions, they are permitted currently under the law and in plenty of case law out of the United States Supreme Court based on faith-related reasons, they are permitted to discriminate. So they don't have to hire somebody who is against the basic tenets of the faith of that they operate under. That's basically been the law of the land for the history of the United States, and this bill attacks that directly.
Tim O'Neill represents the 48th District of Pennsylvania. That's parts of Washington County. I don't know how well you know all of your colleagues. I know you don't purport to speak for anybody but yourself and your vote, nor can you get into the head and heart of people who vote as they do. But I am curious if you know, and can give us any commentary as to the Democrat representative called Frank Burns, Cambria County. Frank Burns is the only Democrat who voted against this with the rest of you. And I'm curious to know if you know his thinking or anything about him and why.
I don't know Frank Burns personally. I don't know him well. I've obviously interacted with him from time to time, but I would not tell you what Frank is thinking about. I do know a little bit about his district and the political makeup of his district. And quite honestly, his district looks awfully similar to mine. And I suspect that Frank had some political implications in mind in the vote that he cast.
Look, it's refreshing because, quite frankly, as a Democrat these days, if you hold a position that you don't you don't go for this stuff, you'll be savaged by your own party. I mean, literally, just exiled if you don't go along. You're absolutely right. That's what we're seeing in the Democratic Party right now. Is you either get on board or you simply can't be a member of the party. And even worse, they treat their own members who go out of line worse than they treat us. Which it's the disagreement
and debate of ideas is another tenet that's fundamental to our society.
Well, maybe we'll get Frank Burns on to explain why he was against it. I think he's a hero, frankly. Literally the only Democrat in Pennsylvania who said no to this yesterday. However, I now must pivot to a couple of your colleagues, Aaron Kaufer, Kaufer, and Alec Rynkavage, Rynkcavage. Alec Rink. Is that how you say those names? Do you know them?
I do know both of them. I think you have their names pretty close. Yeah, Kaufer and Rynkavage. Yeah,
Kaufer and Rynkavage, both Republicans, both of Luzerne County, and both of them said yes and voted with Democrats yesterday. Help me with those two.
Well, just like Frank Burns, I don't necessarily want to speak for other members. Aaron did make some comments on the floor during debate along the lines of he wanted to address the underlying issue, which is discrimination based on some of these categories. He did express some dissatisfaction with the bill on the floor, but thought that the effort to move it forward to the Senate was the right choice. I obviously disagree with that perspective. As I mentioned before, I tend to take the standpoint that I don't want to rely on the Senate to fix anything if we have the ability to fix it here in the House. But those were some of the remarks that Representative Kaufer made on the floor.
So you said that Cambria and Representative Frank Burns, the Democrat, he's probably voting the constituents' interests there. Is Luzerne County some bastion of left-wing ideology I've lost track on?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Yeah. So this is, I don't mean to make you defend these two, but this is remarkable that there's a single Republican anywhere that thinks making doctors and spiritual leaders targets of lawsuits if they don't want to embrace gender dysphoria. I can't imagine what any Republican is thinking in saying yes to this if they truly call themselves a Republican, as I understand it by definition.
Yeah, well, look, Chris, one of the things I want to make, and you're right, I'm not in the position, nor am I going to defend either of them. That's their position to be in. But the reality is, Republicans don't believe anybody should be discriminated in, and we don't believe in discrimination based on categories that you might fall in, and we have no problem addressing that underlying issue. This bill was not a way to address it. This bill was an opportunity to divide, an opportunity to or the potential opportunity to create the division amongst us even greater. That's what this bill will do. Our approach to resolving this issue would be inclusive. It would be to ensure that people aren't excluded. And this bill is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn Beck and others have been calling attention to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, for instance, which I'm sorry to say apparently is some sort of shining light, some beacon for transgender surgeries across the country. I mean, I didn't know this until recently, but it's a well-known destination for child mutilation. If children if you want to take your minor child to have surgery and change their gender, as if you could, you can do it. I mean, is this my question and my point is, Pennsylvania is not a place where you can't freely go get all the wild-eyed abortions you want as late as you want, and Pennsylvania is not a place where you can't go mutilate children if you want. It doesn't, Pennsylvania has a terrible track record of protecting life and children, quite frankly. So the idea that a preacher or a doctor who says no, frankly, they'd be in the minority anyway. I mean, this is a what do you say, cure going in search for a problem, as far as I'm concerned, this legislation?
Absolutely. I mean, you're spot on with your assessment of this. The problem you just highlighted with both abortion and transgender, specifically transgender minder surgery at the Philadelphia Children's Hospital, this bill absolutely makes that problem worse, and ultimately it is fundamentally bad legislation. I would go as far as to say it's anti-American, and unfortunately, we are in the situation now where we have to rely on the Senate to be the firewall on this issue.
And Josh Shapiro has certainly expressed, as governor, he's eager to sign this thing. He'd like it on his desk, yes?
We received a message, I believe it was yesterday, that as amended, so the bill was actually amended against House rules in a maneuver out of the ordinary process. But Governor Shapiro indicated that as amended, he does support the bill.
Yeah. Does this feel as dark to you as it does to me? I mean, this I'm there's been a running theme the last couple of weeks. This is starting to feel like not politics at all. This feels like something else. This feels like child sacrifice or something. This feels like criminalizing speech, and I mean, this is the stuff of hell, Representative. It doesn't feel like politics. It's not like a healthy tax debate or something.
Well, it's certainly not a debate that is beneficial to our Commonwealth. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Look, even the Democrats recognize that they had issues with the underlying bill, and as I just mentioned, they broke their own rules in order to amend it to a place to get the last couple of votes that they needed in order to pass it at all. They recognize that and broke their own rules in order to do it. That's an issue. That's a inside the Capitol type of issue. That's outside the fundamental issues with the bill. But you're right. Look, when it comes down to it, this bill is about ensuring that a particular ideology is acceptable, not only acceptable, but unable to be questioned. And that's a fundamental issue in the Commonwealth. That's a fundamental issue in the United States of America as we know it, as we move forward. Our liberties, our religious liberties, our ability to speak your mind on things you disagree with is certainly being challenged with a piece of legislation like this.
This really seems like bigger news than it's being treated as. I focused on this a lot more than I don't focus on a lot of legislative issues coming out of state houses. But this feels really fundamentally huge. This feels like a seismic shift. Again, not just nibbling around the edges of a certain policy. This is flirting with criminalizing speech and codifying it into law. And it chills me. It's the stuff of darkness, Tim O'Neill, representative from Pennsylvania's 48th District. It really is. The jingle is true. For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com. I'm sleeping like a baby. I can't lie about it. I mean, I have this MyPillow body pillow I use every single night. Tuck it under the blankets, lay next to me. I know, not very romantic on Valentine's Day, but most of us that have been married and you're sleeping nightly, after a while, people sleep hot. I don't know about you. I get hot. I need space. But MyPillow, what's so great about MyPillow and their new MyPillow 2.0 technology is it's exactly for people that sleep hot. So I get this side sleeping thing where I just can't sleep on my back or my stomach. I like sleeping on the side. Maybe you do too. This body pillow they make, like it doesn't get hot, but it is so supportive. And it's like 3 feet long. So it's just perfect to lay your head on. You can tuck it in between your knees to take a little pressure off the lower back or the knees. I love it. Plus, I'm on these Giza Dream Sheets, which are crazy comfortable. We've got the towels, which are super absorbent. We dry off with every morning, thanks to MyPillow.com. My dog, Dean, is on the MyPillow bed for the dog. Loves it. And that's just some of the products. Right now, I'm sipping my coffee. Mike has his own line of coffee. I got the light brew. I think next time I'm going to order the dark brew and try that. But all of these products and so many more, from the robes to the slippers, Christine loves her MyPillow slippers. You got to check it out. And if you go to MyPillow.com and order today, you use my promo code ChrisPodcast. ChrisPodcast. That allows you to save up to 66% on everything on the website. And it also lets them know that you listen to the podcast, which means a lot to me. They're advertising with me in the hopes to reach you. I know you're going to love the products, but when you let them know Chris Podcast, it gets you the discount and lets them know you listen. So thanks for that. It's a three-legged stool. Hopefully everybody wins. So MyPillow.com, promo code Chris, or for the best customer service, you should know everything you order, 60-day money-back guarantee. a 10-year warranty, so they're really high-quality products and made here in the United States. So 800-932-5056 to order in person, 800-932-5056, or mypillow.com, promo code Chris. I'm not going to have time to play this entire thing, but Josh Hawley and the Secretary of the Interior got into it yesterday. Take a listen.
Jobs for blue-collar workers in this nation are valuable resources. The livelihood and well-being of American families are valuable resources. The ability of America to have our own industry and not be dependent on China is a valuable resource. Why should those things for millions of Americans be sacrificed in favor of your agenda for radical climate change?
Senator, I know that there's like 1.9 jobs for every American in the country right now, so I know there's a lot of jobs.
Wait a minute. You're telling me you're telling me we've got too many jobs in the country?
Well, I'm saying that we don't have enough people. That's why we are having a hard time finding folks to work at our department. But
wait, you're telling me that we have too many jobs for blue-collar work? Have you seen the number of jobs we have lost in this country to China in the last 20 years? Do you know where those jobs come from? Over 3 million jobs have gone to China. Do you know where those jobs have come from? They've come out of Midwestern towns like the ones I represent. They are blue-collar workers, and you're sitting here and telling me that we have too many jobs in this country? Are you serious?
Senator, we are working hard every single day. We have processed 20 mining applications, 20 mines or mining modification permits since January of 2021. We are moving forward. We're doing our jobs. We're fulfilling our mission for
You're not moving forward. You're moving backward. You're shutting down and denying permits for mines in this country where we can develop our own resources. You're shutting down oil and natural gassing permits. You're approving taxes and royalties that deliberately suppress American energy development in favor of a climate change agenda. And now you're sitting here and telling me we've got too many jobs in this country. We've got gobs of jobs in this country. We don't need any more jobs in this country. I want to take the strongest possible exception to that comment and to that entire mentality, which I think is very honest. I think it reflects the mentality of your administration, which is when it comes to blue-collar workers in this country, you're on your own. Good luck.
Yeah, well,
good luck to you.
That's Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, and a harumph to him. That is easily one of the, Jennifer Granholm is the Energy Secretary. She's the looniest. Deb Haaland, the Secretary of the Interior, is the stupidest. I mean, without peer, the dumbest. Who's the daddy? Who's the daddy? Who's the baby mama? As far as the Bidens are concerned, they don't want to talk about it. I love that Pepe Le Pew, the White House press secretary, was asked yesterday, why do the Bidens not acknowledge that Hunter has a little bastard child?
I wanted to ask about the trial going on in Arkansas with Hunter Biden and the child support. Are the president and First Lady monitoring that? And how come they haven't acknowledged the 7th grandchild?
I'm not going to speak to that from here.
Senior columnist at townhall.com. The newest Kelly Turnbull series of 7 called Inferno. A bestseller like the 6 previous. Colonel Kurt Schlichter joins me again. Colonel, ahoy!
Ahoy. Thanks for waking me up at dark 30 to talk about Spermy McMeth.
And in Arkansas, no less. Is there a greater setting than Arkansas for this story?
I love how some, circuit judge in, Bumdiddley, Arkansas is dragging, Cokey hammer stripper down to, appear in court personally with his giant team of $1,000 an hour lawyers pleading poverty, while he's driving around L.A. in somebody's Porsche. This is so quintessential Biden. And of course, the news media is like, well, it's better not cover this. Did you know Clarence Thomas has friends?
Yeah, Clarence Thomas has rich friends, but we're going to ignore that, as you say, the coke-addled stripper banger as a child out of wedlock. We're going to ignore that entirely. You're exactly right.
And it's a choice between Biden being so senile he doesn't know about his other granddaughter, or being so evil he doesn't care.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure. Look, it's quite the horse race. Seabiscuit versus Secretariat in that one. I'm not sure which one's going to win, evil or stupid.
What's going to go down ultimately, do you think, on the Hunter Biden story?
Hunter? Oh, sorry.
Hello. How does this shake? Because it sounds. They keep saying this. I feel like
that's how we got into this trouble in the first place.
We've been saying for 3-4 years that the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware is closing in, getting close.
Oh yeah,
gonna do something on Hunter Biden, but nothing.
Yeah.
Will we ever see anything?
Yeah, they're going to make it rain with indictments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, it's almost like there's two judicial systems: one for the elite and one for the people who oppose the elite. In totally unrelated news, the military is missing its recruiting goals.
Yeah. I posited this at my Harumph Society newsletter, and this is sincere. Is it possible that all this kind of woke transgender stuff is so dispiriting to so many of our, I won't even call them
normal people?
Well, to normal people around the world. When you think about people like Saudi Arabia or most of the nations of Africa, these are not places that like that stuff at all. And as China comes knocking, I swear to you, I almost feel sometimes like if you really wanted to weaken us globally, this is a great way to get a lot of potential allies to turn their backs on us.
Hold on. Are you telling me having drag queens in the Navy doesn't increase combat power in the Indo-Pacific?
I wouldn't guess.
Are you such a transphobe?
I've never served. You have,
I'm
sir.
I'm so sick of this stuff. I am not, I am so sick of being expected to pretend that these people aren't at best lunatics and at worst evil perverts trying to touch kids. I now refuse to delusion name people, including Bruce Jenner, Bradley Manning, or whatever the real first name of that creepy weirdo swimmer guy is. I think people are just done playing. And you can even see it with the whole Bud Light thing. I don't understand why people with access to something like Yingling would drink that garbage anyway. But it's also pervert beer. And I think we need a ruthless backlash where we stop. Americans are so polite. We're like, oh, we want to live and let live. And if it's an adult who wants to, live as a female, I respect their choices. I don't. Okay. I would outlaw mutilation for everybody, adults and kids.
Yes.
No, you never have a right to cut off your healthy genitals to conform your body sort of in a gross, horrific, Frankensteinian way to your delusions. I would outlaw it, and I would throw weirdos who perform that surgery in prison forever. I tried tolerance, Chris, and what happened was they tried to have sex with my kids. So I'm going to try saying no, and let's see who wins.
Colonel Kurt Schlichter is at townhall.com, author of the Kelly Turnbull series, 7 in all so far. He's at Kurt Schlichter on Twitter. I have not had you on the show to pick your brain and react to the Tucker Carlson exit from Fox. I know. Have you done Tucker's show before? I know you're on Laura's show a lot.
I've done. I did Tucker's old show. I've never done his new one.
Okay, so I don't know.
Which is a giant regret in my life, a giant empty void, which I'll fill with alcohol.
I know you. Like I said, you've been a guest on Fox, so you kind of understand how it works. What's your best read as to what you think went down there, in your view?
Fox clearly thinks at a macro level it's better off without Tucker. It's a ruthless. It got rid of Bill O'Reilly when Bill O'Reilly was on top and people were stunned. But then it went on to Tucker and even greater success. It thinks its future is better without Tucker. Now, it may be right or wrong. I think Tucker's going to go on to huge things. I do like how there are some people out there trying to leak these terrible, damaging things about Tucker. You know, Tucker's a white supremacist. Did you know that?
Yeah, right.
There's some people he doesn't like.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm looking at this stuff going, God, this is kind of ham-handed. I just, no.
Yeah, like all the stuff they're releasing makes me like him more. It's stuff that I would sit around talking about over drinks with you.
The only thing is, they're like, he has this thing where some people are beating up some Antifa guy. I actually thought, Tucker, that's a little weak. I mean, it's like
Schlichter just said he wants to jail everybody who wants to do genital mutilation. Jail him. I mean, yeah, come on, bring it.
Yeah, I'm not done with these weirdos, losers, mutations, and perverts who want to run my society. I'm not willing to do that. Somebody, I remember there was somebody who was like, why do you even care what we do as, transsexuals? And I'm like, because it's my culture.
Yeah. And
I have a right to determine what my culture is. Yeah. Now, you think you do. You think you need to turn into some, Saturday night in the, in the East Village or whatever. But I don't particularly want to live in pervert land. I want to live in a normal place. So I vote we not be weirdos.
Pennsylvania's legislature yesterday just passed, the House passed, hopefully it'll die in the Senate, but the House just passed a bill that effectively criminalizes opposition to this stuff. If doctors don't want to do the surgeries, if pastors and churches speak out against it, they passed legislation in the House in Pennsylvania yesterday to allow lawsuits to be filed against people who don't want to participate in this.
Luckily, we still have the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court's mad about this, again, ham-handed campaign to try and delegitimize the Supreme Court. First of all, I'm not interested in legitimacy. I'm interested in power.
Yeah.
And we have it. And we should use it ruthlessly to defeat our enemies, the ones who want to impose weirdo culture on us. I'm just tired of it. I don't think we need to be friendly. I don't think we need to abide. There's the David French crew who think there's this important conservative principle that requires we always lose. I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to, David French's lifestyle, if you know what I'm saying. Like the Bod Lame and the rest of these guys, they can just, I'm going to keep it FCC compliant, but they can do things that are structurally challenging.
I hate to wander down this path again, but I'm always just kind of curious your thoughts. I know how you feel about Trump and his odds in terms of going forward as the nominee. But I am just curious that Trump is going to make an appearance on CNN and do a town hall with them. Do you like that move, or do you care, or is that an odd decision?
I don't think we should cavort with the enemy. And I want candidates who are clear on who the enemy is. And one of the problems with Trump, and I'm going to vote for whoever wins in the primary. All right, if it's Trump, I'm going to support Trump. And I do think he has a chance of winning. I just don't think it's a very good one. I think he's likely to hand the whole government over to these perverts. But one of Trump's problems is he's always blind to who's his friend and who's his enemy. His friend is any liberal important, prestigious liberal who hates him, or anybody who sucks up to him. Anybody who says, Don, you're screwing up and you need to do better, is suddenly the enemy. Yeah. So, like me, a guy who literally wrote a book defending him, which I stand by. He's been terribly wronged. Because I'm like, Don, you've got electability problems and you're saying stupid things. All right. You're not, Bud Light defending Disney. That's all stupid stuff. And you're Soros gem lover. You love Paul Ryan. Yeah, I love Paul Ryan. Good take. You're smart. Now get back to the university and your professorship in particle physics. Porterwitz. I guess I hate stupid people. And I hate when people say stupid things that are manifestly false because they're either stupid or liars or they think I'm stupid.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on with Gorka yesterday, And he asked,
I love Gorka.
I love Gorka too, but he believes in his heart and soul there is only one man for this job. He's it. He's it.
But look,
Trump's it.
You can make look. Gorka's a close personal friend. We're constantly texting each other about communism. We disagree on this. He is to Gorka's credit. He is a very personally loyal guy.
Yes.
And he's personally loyal to Donald Trump, and he has made an assessment. He's not a stupid guy.
Nope.
I have made a good case for Donald Trump. There is a good case for Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in my opinion, if I were running Donald Trump, I could tell him what to do. I would be saying you have a nearly unparalleled record of success under unbelievable injustice and abuse. I would run. Are you happier now than you were 3 years ago? Because I will bring back, a good stock market, a great economy, America not at war, America energy. That is what I will do. So Ron DeSantis, good guy, good governor, but I've already done it, and I'll do it again. And I think that's a powerful critique.
Okay.
Hey, meatball.
So you think this is intriguing? You think he could basically clean up and walk away with this almost single-handedly if he just stayed away from attacking DeSantis at all, stuck to what he's accomplished and that he's done the job, and just say, I like Ron, he's nice, but I'm the man because I've already done the job and I've done it well. That's his ticket, and people would be okay with it.
I think he would do better because it would remind people less of why they hate him. Okay. He has a ceiling. There are people who just hate him unreasonably.
Yeah.
Including Republicans. Republicans just they're like, well, I can't ever vote for him. And I find that in
here's what's bizarre. I know people in my personal life who 5 years ago badgered me because I didn't like him and insisted and demanded I get on board with him. I finally did. I voted for him, and today have totally turned their back on him and said he's done. He's yesterday's news. And now I find myself in the position of pumping the brakes on throwing him overboard when 5 years ago you had to talk me into him, and I thought Cruz was the guy. So it's a weird place.
I gave money to Cruz. You know how cheap I am. I don't think you're crazy or evil because you think Donald Trump is the most likely candidate to win.
Yeah,
I think you might be inaccurate, but that doesn't. You're not a bad person, and nor are you a bad person because you think Ron DeSantis is better. Has a better opportunity. But either way, I'm gonna vote for whoever wins the primary because that's how this works.
Yep.
I don't like people who are never Trump doing that. I think that's stupid. And I think people who are only Trump are being stupid. The goal is to win. It's not about a person. Politicians are fungible. There's a lawyer word. Utterly interchangeable.
Colonel Kurt Schlichter, senior columnist at townhall.com. The Kelly Turnbull series, pick every one of them up, all 7. They're all bestsellers, each one. Colonel, and on a personal note, not to drag you down a little bit here, but I know you lost Mom here recently. I know she'd been battling a bit, but...
she has. Mom was a Pennsylvanian, born in McKeesport, and we have family in Philadelphia. Mom was a real judge mom. She became a judge. From coal miner to judge in 2 generations.
Impressive lady.
Daughter of Pennsylvania. Very proud of it, too. And there's a lot of Pennsylvania in me, if you know what I mean. So thanks. I appreciate it. And, I'm very proud of my Pennsylvania connection, even though I live here in California.
Love you, brother.
Adios, man. Thanks. Appreciate it.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.